terms of setting up our itinerary, and we were pretty much self-contained, and everything turned out fairly well in retrospect. So with that little brief introduction, Stan,
Okay,
away we
thanks very
go.
much, Al. All right, so this shows the Danube River route starting in Danube, Germany, Black Forest, at an elevation of about 700 meters and going all the way to the Black Sea, elevation, well, sea level. So we didn't go, we had originally thought about going all the way, but that would have been a very long ride. So we did go as far as Budapest, so that's almost halfway to the Black Sea.
What if they're on the TV?
What Andrew told you.
So we'll answer questions at the end, but you can use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen if you're familiar with that, or you can ask questions at the end by raising your hand. So this is the whole path, but we didn't go the whole way. On the first day, we went from Zurich Airport to Rhine Falls, a distance of about 40 kilometers. This is Zurich Airport at the bottom of the map, and this is Rhine Falls at the top of the map, the red spot, and mostly through Switzerland, but crossing into Germany a little bit, and then coming back into Switzerland again. So that was our first day. This was actually taken in Kitchener before going to Toronto Airport. I took the bus from Kitchener to Toronto Airport, and then that was all my worldly belongings were inside that one box. Well, all the belongings I took to Europe at least. So I arrived in Zurich Airport about 11 o'clock and met my biking buddy Al, who arrived on a different plane. I believe he flew from Detroit. I had packed my bike in a cardboard box with the wheels and pedals removed. Everything I brought to Europe was in the box and a backpack. Of course, the bikes needed to be put together before heading out. And yeah, here's a picture of the bikes. Al already had his together, so he helped me with mine. Soon the pedals and wheels were back on and we were ready to head out. We were not quite sure about how to get away from the busy airport, but we asked for some help and were soon on our way north towards Danube, Germany, where we had booked a B&B for the night. We enjoyed a wonderful ride through the Swiss countryside, with much of the path being off-road. A few pictures through Switzerland. There was one thing we were not quite prepared for on our first day of cycling: several relatively long, steep, challenging, energy-sapping climbs with fully loaded bikes, quite different from Lantern County.
Again.
Rhino, we crossed the Danube into Germany, and then soon passed back into Switzerland, entering the town of Neuhausen about 5 p.m. It was starting to get dark, and with the unforeseen delays due to terrain and directional challenges, there was no way we could get all the way to Danube. We were super hungry by now, so we stopped at a gas station on the main street for some human fuel. Al got a huge bottle of orange pop to satisfy his thirst and fill his 2 water bottles. The girl at the desk was very helpful and tried to arrange train transportation to Danube. That did not work out, so we decided to try to find accommodation nearby. We received directions to the youth hostel in town, but upon arrival, we found that it was totally occupied by a youth group, not a single bed available. However, the young lady in charge was extremely helpful and contacted another hostel about 5 kilometers away at Rhine Falls. So back on the bikes. The hostel at the falls was in a beautiful old building, a part of a castle called Schlosslaufen. Schloss, that's castle. So here's the Schloss. Lots of history there. We walked our bikes over a walking bridge that led through an impressive stone tower entranceway into a courtyard and to the hostel. There was a separate secure area in which to leave our bikes. Our accommodations were quite Spartan. A dozen foam mattresses placed side by side on a long raised wooden platform with precious little space between them. Most of them were already occupied as we entered the room in the dark. Despite a lot of snoring and only one tiny washroom, we were good and tired and able to get a decent night's sleep. So just to restate our first day from Zurich Airport, 40 kilometers up to Nijhausen or Rhine Falls on the Rhine River. Okay, that was day one. Now, day two.
Okay, just a couple of quick comments. The positive part of day one is that we had pretty much dedicated bike lanes the whole way through. On the not so positive side, when we got into some of the small towns and sometimes good-sized towns, we were at a loss as to which way to go, and a number of people were quite helpful in that regard. So with the terrain and the lack of a definite route to follow from Zurich to Danube, it slowed us down quite a bit. Anyhow, Thursday morning, we woke up. It was a cool day, gray overcast skies and a little bit of rain. It had been an unexpectedly grueling first day on the bikes, and we were in no particular hurry for an early start. The map that you're seeing here shows where we started off near Schaffhausen, and we were going up to Danube, which is at the red dot at the top of the map. It's about 40 kilometers for the day, and as Stan mentioned, that was our expected first day destination, but the hills and the terrain were more demanding than we thought and slowed us right down. We had a nice leisurely breakfast at the hostel dining room, and that was pretty typical of all the hostels we stayed at. Breakfasts were fairly good. We had our first challenge of the day when Stan plugged in his phone, plugged in his power adapter, and found out that the unit was dead. And that may not seem significant. However, recharging Stan's phone was critical, as he had a directional app called Maps.me that was used to figure out where we were going. I had some very detailed guidebooks, sort of hard copy stuff that gave fairly good descriptions of where we were supposed to go, but they weren't relevant until we got to Danube. So the first 2 days we were sort of at the mercy of Stan's phone. Anyhow, one of the hostesses at the hostel gave Stan an adapter that somebody left behind. We charged our phones and everything was good for the time being. After breakfast, we walked around the grounds, took some pictures, relaxed. I actually had a second little nap and waited for the rain to stop. Rhine Falls is just an absolutely beautiful place. It's extremely popular with tourists, and the Europeans see Rhine Falls, look at Rhine Falls the same way that we look at Niagara Falls. Rhine Falls has a height of about 23 meters, and as you can see in the pictures, it's not one big drop like the falls, but rather a series of incline drops. It spans about 150 meters across the high Rhine River. After exploring the river a bit and looking at the falls, we visited this little church, which was open. We went inside and spent a little bit of time in there, and just a very relaxing place to sit and contemplate where we were. Around noon, the rain had stopped. We loaded up the bikes and headed out. You can see our bikes behind the cow. The cow stayed there. It didn't come along. Challenge number 2 for the day, as we were walking down a relatively steep walkway leading from the hostel, I noticed that my rear wheel was having a problem. I took the panniers off and took a look, and the reason the wheel wasn't moving is that a bungee cord had got completely entwined around the rear cassette and the derailleur, and it was a bit of a mess. So about 15 minutes of cutting and pulling cleared that out. The bungee cord was a write-off, however. Our route for the morning led us to the other side of the falls, and you can see a view from there. Our hostel is up on the right. Part of it is shown in the photo. The view is equally spectacular from both sides of the river. We found people, again, to be very helpful and friendly. And this morning, a wonderful young lady who was working in one of the souvenir shops spent, 15, 20 minutes using her phone and checking out the route that we were supposed to follow. Because as I say, we didn't have a definite map for it. We followed the Rhine back to Neuhausen and then on into Schaffhausen before getting into the Swiss countryside.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop here for a bit and show this video.
Sure. Oh, yeah, we got a video. That's right. Is your sound coming through, Stan?
So did the sound come through in that okay?
It's not, I'm not hearing anything. Anybody hearing any sound?
I don't hear it either.
No? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, well, slide.
Okay. So anyhow, we're back out in the countryside. We were heading north, passed through some beautiful fields of grain. But we were again faced with some daunting climbs. They were really quite surprising and something that we hadn't really prepared for. Some of them were too steep to ride, and more than once we got off and had to walk our bikes, me more frequently than Stan. Is that me yawning, Stan?
I think it is.
But no kidding, some of those hills were a bit of a climb. At least Stan had the energy to take pictures of flowers along the route. And in spite of the energy that we expended, it was a beautiful, beautiful route. By the time we reached the German border, we had gained about 400 meters of altitude. Our legs felt every meter of it. And we had entered, as Stan liked to say, the land of the Schwein, which was a welcome change from Switzerland because food was a lot more plentiful along the route and a whole lot less expensive. We stopped in a little town called Bloomberg for dinner. We each had a margarita pizza and a beer. And as I'm sure we've all experienced from time to time, when you're hungry, anything is good. And those were really delicious. We were back on the bikes in late afternoon and only had about 5 kilometers to back to the other one. Stan, you're too quick
All
there.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the map? Yeah. We were back on our bikes about late afternoon. We had about 5 kilometers to go. We went through Huffingen, and Danube is up at the red dot there. The only problem is that when we got into Danube, we had really no idea as to where our B&B was. And you can guess why. Stan's phone was again dead. And we had a reservation at the Black Forest Wood and Stone Lodge. It had been for the previous night, but we were hoping that we could get in there tonight. So, but we had no idea where it was. Anyhow, we came up to a gas station at the intersection of 2 roads, and Stan went in and came back and said, well, what the lady said in German was we go straight down the road and it's to the right. So that's what we did. We went straight down the road, and it didn't take us long before we realized, as darkness descended, that we were heading out of town. And when we finally had an opportunity to turn right, what we ended up on was what you would call a logging road. So we turned around, put on the bike lights and headed back in, and then Stan, in a moment of inspiration, turned down a side road, which after a couple of kilometers led into this little village of Alphen. And I mean, it was dark by this time. There were very, very few homes with any lights on. There was one that was. We stopped, knocked on the door. A young lady came to the door. We explained the situation, and her mother, Diana, came out, and she knew where our B&B was. And she got on the phone and phoned the guy, and then got on her bike and led us through the village for about, I guess, 2 or 3 kilometers, and led us right to the place where we were supposed to stay. And Stefan, our host, was again very gracious. had the room available for us, even though we were a day late and late in the evening, and at no additional charge either. So everything worked out quite well. The really funny thing is that the B&B that we were staying at was right down the road on the right. It's just not on the road that we took. So the gas station was at an intersection. We took the road out of town rather than the road into Elfin. The Wooden Stone Lodge was just absolutely beautiful. It's a shame we don't have more pictures, but we were too tired. Beautiful bedroom, and the bathroom especially had a shower, and you can't see it from here, but that's a whirlpool bathtub, and it was just wonderful after a long day. So in spite of everything, the destination that we arrived at and how we got there made for a very memorable second day. And on that cheerful note, we'll head into day 3 with Stan.
All right, day 3, September the 6th, Danube to Sigmaringen, this time substantially further, 90 kilometers. And here's a map. Maybe it doesn't look as far, but it actually is twice as far. Danube here. And we went through some beautiful gorge here. The river really goes through a narrow gorge for a while, and before it comes out at Sigmaringen. So this shows the route from Danube to Sigmaringen. In Danube is at the edge of Schwarzwald. You know what Schwarzwald is? That's Black Forest. About 700 meters. So now it's downhill all the way to the Black Sea, but we didn't go quite that far. But we put on our brakes at Budapest and didn't go any further. So Black Forest is at an elevation of 700 meters. We climbed 300 meters yesterday, so we're glad that we don't have to do any more climbing today. So you probably know something about Black Forest. Maybe you have a cuckoo clock in your house. Well, cuckoo clocks originate in the Black Forest. Or maybe you had Black Forest ham for dinner today. Well, Black Forest, guess where it's from? And the best thing of all about the Black Forest is Black Forest cake. Lovely cherries in black chocolate cake. So the Black Forest is a wonderful place. So we followed the Danube River quite closely, crossing it several times. And at this time, it's a very small river. You could almost jump across it. It was a wonderful stay at the Black Forest Wooden Stone Lodge. Our bikes were left inside at the foot of the stairs. And one of the other guests, 2 guys traveling by car, gave Al a phone charger to replace the one he had left behind at a restaurant the previous day. Our room was exceptional, spacious and welcoming, with a very comfortable cedar timber bunk bed and kitchen facilities just outside our door. And you saw the pictures before. Unfortunately, breakfast was not available there, even though it was called a B&B. I'm not quite sure what the letters stand for. And the kitchen cupboards were bare. But we were on our bikes much earlier today, looking forward to the 90-kilometer ride to Sigmaringen, where we had booked 2 beds in a youth hostel. 10 minutes down the road, we stopped at an excellent grocery store where we had our choice of breakfast items. And then we took a short ride to Danube. Well, what's Danube? Well, Danube is the official source of the Danube River. I'm not quite sure why it's called the official source, because actually 2 rivers come together, but the Breg and the Brigash rivers come together, and then from there, then on it's called the Danube. But there also is a spring there in the town of Danube, and the spring goes through a pipe to join the Brigash River, and then join the Breg, and then it's on its way. Oops, sorry, I went through that a little fast. So this is the pool. So it doesn't look very natural, but there is a spring there, and then there's a pipe that takes the water away from that to be the start of the Danube River. So there's Al at the spring. The start of the Great Danube River, it flows 2,700 kilometers through 10 countries all the way to the Black Sea. And the source is officially Danube, a large basin holding a pool of blue water. The basin is framed by wrought iron fence and a group of allegorical statues sculpted by Adolf Heer in 1895. These depict the Bar, Germany's great central plateau, as a mother showing her daughter, the Danube, the way out into the world. The Danube officially begins at the meeting point of two streams, the Breg and the Brigash. However, locating the source of the river has not been without controversy. The Breg, the larger of the two streams that feeds the river, originates in the town of Furtwangen, which claims that this makes it the true location of the Danube source. But the Naueschingen has been widely regarded as the source of the Danube as far back as the Roman Empire. And in 1981, the German government granted the pool in the Naueschingen the sole official designation of Danube. We stopped at the Tourist Information Center and got information on Danube. There's a spring bubbling out of the earth, located close to the information center. We also enjoyed visiting a quaint little church nearby, as you see on the slide. Around noon, we headed out following the Danube on its journey to the Black Sea. It is a very small river at this point, and we crossed it several times on small bridges. So some pictures of the Danube. So
The end, right?
Yeah.
number of bridges to cross, because bridges didn't have to be very long at this point. As the evening approached, I'm going to show some pictures of the valley that we were going through. And there were cliffs on the sides, and quite often there would be castles on the top. So there's several pictures here of the valley that we were going through. Some of the buildings were not really immaculate. This one is in kind of bad repair. Lots of animals along the way. So this is really pastoral, rural countryside in this part of Germany. It's not really industrialized like the north part of it is. So it's a very nice, and there you can see a little cross on the top there. I don't know if that might have been a monastery or something at one point. So as the evening approached, we climbed a relatively steep hill. I think this is kind of at the top of the hill. This is maybe the top of the hill. On the outskirts of Sigmaringen. I got a bit ahead of Al on the hill and we lost sight of each other. When Al got to the top, I was nowhere to be seen. Must have continued on, thought Al, so he kept going, but he never did find me. About 5 kilometers later, Al stopped for 15 minutes near a sign indicating the direction to the youth hostel, had a drink and waited. Still no sign of me. So he posted a sign at the side of the road saying he had gone to the hostel. After a couple of inquiries at a restaurant in town, a personal escort by a group of locals, and climbing one more hill, Al found the hostel. And just in time, as the gal in charge had been working a double shift and was 5 minutes away from locking up. The hostel was completely booked by a large student group. However, our reservation was intact. Al picked up 2 sets of sheets just in case I found my way there, located the bedroom, and returned to the foyer and waited. Several times, Al had tried calling me on his phone, but each time got the, "Hello, this is Stan, leave a message." And it was getting dark. A cyclist appeared about 9 p.m., but it turned out to be a guy with a reservation in our room. In need of bedding himself, he got my sheets. Meanwhile, I was looking for Al. After some backtracking on the bike path, I eventually headed for the hostel and thankfully saw the sign. I was starved, so stopped in town for a bite to eat and then using my phone for directions, headed for the hostel. I crossed the Danube and then climbed up a long hill and finally reached the hostel about 9. It was very dark inside. Al was in the lobby, keeping the door open, but almost certain that I had found different accommodations. Then, in the dead of night, a voice calls out, "Hey, Al." What a relief. Hey, Al. What a relief that I finally made it and did not have to sleep on the street. We shared a nice room with our fellow traveler and enjoyed sharing our travel experiences. It has been a very interesting conclusion to a long but fairly easy day of cycling after 2 tough days climbing hills. We are doing well. And that was the hostel that we came to in Sigmaringen. I think it was actually taken the next morning because it was dark. When
I stay in hotels now.
So,
And,
here's the route from
hostels
Danube
from
to
50 years ago, thank you.
Okay, Al, we're now into.
I've just got to throw in a comment, Stan.
Yeah,
Like
go.
I waited about 2 hours.
Oh, really?
For Stan to show up, and I had pretty much given up hope until this voice from the dark called out, and I give Stan credit for finding the place in the middle of the night like that. Anyhow, day 4 from Sigmaringen to Obermarchtal, we had a good night's sleep. Breakfast was again an enjoyable start to the day, and probably what we anticipated more than usual, because our dinners, loosely using the word, had not been very substantial. This morning we had easily the best breakfast to date, a full buffet of fried eggs, bacon, cereal, yogurt, sliced meat, almost anything that you would like. And in spite of the large number of kids that were there was no shortage of food. And the Sigmaringen hostel experience was excellent in every way. Our destination for today was the Kloster Obermarchtal. You want to go back to the map for a second, Stan?
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going from Sigmaringen up to the Kloster, which is at the place marked with the D. And it's a place that we weren't familiar with. We had made advance reservations for the first couple of nights of the trip. And from now on, we would only book a day or two ahead. We used booking.com as that site offered a lot of choice and good prices. When we booked accommodation at the Kloster, we knew nothing about it, but it sounded interesting and it looked like a reasonably priced place and a nice place to stay. And the Abbey turned out to be absolutely exceptional. In Sigmaringen, our bikes were stored in a secure building next to the hostel.
Oh, sorry.
Got a picture there? There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And packing up our stuff, we cycled into Sigmaringen. We cruised down a hill and crossed the Danube over a flower-decked bridge, just beautiful flowers. And across the bridge, rising up directly from the bridge and dominating the town skyline, was the Sigmaringen Castle. Again, a beautiful, beautiful castle rising above the Danube on a chalk projection that is part of the White Jura Mountain Formation. The hill is known as the Schlossberg, or Castle Rock. The sheer cliffs and the steep sides of the rock tower made it a natural site for a well-protected medieval castle. And the history of the castle goes back to the Middle Ages. The first construction occurred between the 11th and 13th centuries. And as you would expect, the original castle has been fully absorbed in the later constructions and renovations. It's been open for guided tours since 1871. But unfortunately, it was closed the day we were there, which was a Saturday. It was a very pleasant morning, and we had a relatively short day of cycling ahead. We weren't in any rush, and so we spent a bit of time in Sigmaringen. It's a pretty little town. There was a street market going on the Saturday we were there, and a lot of people out and about. A large assortment of fruits, vegetables, flowers, baked goods, and various craft items there. And I felt, and I'm sure Stan did also, that there's a very different feel and a much more relaxed pace of life than we experience on weekends back home here. Stan got to enjoy a ride on a donkey, and probably the happiest that I've seen him over the last 2 days. We cycled out of town around mid-morning, fairly energized and ready to put in a lot of kilometers. However, half an hour later, we entered the town of Enetek and approached just a wonderful little bakery. And it was superb. We stopped, we went in and ordered for several glorious moments, really. We sat and relaxed at a table on a small outside patio and indulged in some just wonderful, wonderful pastries and great coffee. This turned out to be something that we would take advantage of whenever the opportunity arose. And it just made for a very nice morning break. We cycled about 55 kilometers during the day along an excellent cycle path and through a number of the cycle paths really have been excellent all the way along. And at this point, and I'm sure Stan would agree, there's no way you can get lost. The Danube cycle path goes from town to town fairly clearly, and there's no problem with directions at all. The Danube River was never that far away. We arrived at the Kloster Obermarchtel in mid-afternoon. As I say, we didn't know what we were getting into, but after crossing the Danube, we parked our bikes and climbed up that hill off to the left there and entered the monastery through a side entrance. We talked to the gal at the reservation desk, again, extremely helpful, and arranged for a room. We made a dinner reservation and got proper instructions as to the main entrance to the monastery. We then walked back down, got our bikes and rode up and through the main entrance. And on site, there is bike storage. We stored the bikes and then wandered around the monastery grounds. There are a number of pictures of the monastery that are on, you can find on Google that I'm sure you would appreciate seeing. It is just a beautiful, beautiful facility. We found our room. It was extremely comfortable, but small. We settled in and relaxed, did the necessary washing of clothes in the sink that was there, and then went out and did some more exploring. The bathroom and shower facilities are something that we always appreciated. They were superb. Dinner and breakfast the next morning in the dining hall was far, far superior to anything we had before. The dining area was an all-you-can-eat buffet. There were numerous dinner guests there. This picture is of Stan the next morning, but at dinner, numerous guests, all well-dressed and obviously enjoying the ambiance of the place. They had wine and beer on a help yourself honor system. And we even had designated seating. So when we first went in, we sat at a table and the hostess came up and said, "Oh no, we've got a table reserved for you over there." So we were really treated like royalty. And it was our first solid, delicious dinner in 4 days. And the evening wrapped up with some great conversation with some newly met Swiss friends, and just a very enjoyable conclusion to another very good day. The Kloster Obermarchtel was beyond our expectations. We were just very, very fortunate to have stayed there. And in the morning, it was very hard to leave. One further comment, I would just love to go back. And I'm sure you would enjoy Googling Kloster Obermarchtel and having a look at the facility. It is just a wonderful, wonderful place. On to you, Stan.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was definitely the best place that we eat all the way along.
Oh, yeah.
So this Zoom meeting, we get 40 minutes free, and they could cut us off at any time because I think we've been on 40 minutes, but hopefully they don't. And if they do, well, just come back next Sunday and we'll continue on from where we left off. However, day 5, Obermarchtal to Ulm, 45 kilometers, so a relatively short ride. So there's the map of the day. We enjoyed a walk around the Kloster campus and a lovely breakfast in the dining room, a hot buffet with eggs and sausages and bacon and delicious pastries. Oh, my mouth is watering already. Here's a couple slides of the ground. So we were up quite high. This is looking down at the Danube River, and a stork's nest on top of one of the buildings there. So there was quite a big complex there. And it was actually being used as a school right now too. I'm sure it's not. And there's a wedding going on there actually the day that we arrived there. There was a light rain, so we decided to wait for a while before heading out. We enjoyed the worship service at the church on the campus. We could not understand the words too much as it was in German, but we could still enjoy the music, and the building was very, very ornate, a visible expression of worship to God. So isn't that ornate? I don't think your church looks like that. There we are. And so this is pre-COVID, so packed, but there were quite a few people there. After the service, we left the cluster in a very light rain, passing through beautiful fields of sunflowers to the town of Ehingen, where we stopped for lunch. They were celebrating a special occasion and had tents set up with a large variety of foods, which we greatly enjoyed. Kind of like the Brigden Fair, with different groups having food there. There was quite a sudden heavy downpour, and then it cleared up. So here's a few pictures of Ehingen and the ride there. Sunflowers along the way, saw them everywhere. Lots of flowers along the road, and there was a light rain. This is in Ehingen where we stopped for lunch. The fountain, close up. And there was quite a wind there for a bit too, when the rain, oh yeah. And so the bags showed the signs of the weather, the mud that was along the road and along the way. Well, we reached the city of Ulm about 6 o'clock, stopping at the Miraval Galateria ice cream parlor on Glockerstrasse for some refreshments. One of the few places open on Sunday. We biked through rain today, so we were somewhat dirty and wet. Al put up some dry clothes at the shop, and enjoy a very large coffee. So there's the Miraval place and the ice cream parlor. And it's so many kinds of ice cream. That was really quite amazing. And look at that cup of coffee. I don't know how you can drink that much
This
coffee.
cup of coffee.
You must have been awake all night that night. Well, we had booked our accommodations through Airbnb at the home of Barb, known as Prinzessin of Schwabenland on Facebook in Ulm. And using the smartphone app, Maps.me, we soon found her home. She was a very gracious host, providing a lovely room with a bed and a fold-down couch with a dish of candies. She even laundered our biking clothes, washed, dried, and neatly folded. Meanwhile, our bicycles were enjoying the safety of her backyard. So there's the room that we had. Quite lots of colors on the bedding, and a very comfortable room. And she was a very great host. And you'll find more about Ulm and a picture of Barb on our next presentation, which hopefully will be a week from today at 7 o'clock. So I hope that you can come back again. Glad you joined us tonight.
Do we have time for questions, Stan?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Let's see. Can you unmute yourself to ask the question one at a time? Does anybody have a question they would like to ask? Let's see. Oh, I should be able to see questions too. Maybe, did anybody use the chat feature?
You got to fit it in. That's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, just ask a question if you have a question. Yeah, no question. Okay. Well,
Well, I'll use your
okay, David, do you have a question?
computers.
Oh, okay.
Not a specific question. I'm sort of curious to know if you remember all of these details or if you've got them all written down somewhere, because there's a lot of information. Just
Yeah, there is a lot. Well, Al is very good at researching information, so he kept notes every day. Oh yeah, and he had a journal, and he wonders if he left it at your place actually.
a journal, really? I haven't found anything like that here.
No, okay, you're right. But yeah, but the actual action of writing things down helps remember it. So he wrote a journal every day. And,
yeah, it does. Yeah.
But then he did some research.
If I find it, but if it hasn't turned up in the last year, I doubt if it'll turn up suddenly tomorrow.
It's not that important, David. Is in a small spiral bound book that I think I asked you if you wanted, and I left it there, but it's not important one way or the other.
And how big is it?
Oh, 4x3.
Like sort of like sort of a mobile phone size thing?
Yeah, a little bit bigger than a mobile phone. It's not a big deal. Somebody asked a chat question as to when the next cycling experience is going to be, Stan. That's
like-
interesting. We
haven't
both
all the way to
left,
Budapest yet. So
yeah, we both left our bikes at David's place. And so we've got,
Only one of the two bikes is still here, I'm sorry
yeah,
to say.
I just saw your chat thing. You sold mine, did you?
Yeah, I sold yours to some of the, do you remember Andre and the workers that he had
Oh, yeah.
doing various
Uh-huh.
renovations here? So I think your bike actually ended up in Moldavia.
Well, so much the
Yeah.
better.
They actually bought it and then they sent it home to their relatives in Moldavia, where I guess bikes like that are kind of a rarity.
wow. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so you got a whole lot of money coming to you, Al.
Yeah, you've got tons of money coming to you.
That's not a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow,
I sent you a message about that, Stan, a while ago, but
Okay.
I don't know if I should send you the money through a bank transaction, or we can I'll probably be coming to Canada if everything works out, maybe in May to June.
Okay.
We can get together
Okay.
in person for the transaction.
Yeah, we definitely have to get a bike ride in when you come here.
anyhow, I hope everybody will join us next Sunday, and we'll try and have a little more polished presentation.
So, yeah, this has been recorded too. So if you have comments, and if you have questions, or if you want to, well, yeah,
Ben,
ideas
Dan,
for
that
presentation.
might be a good idea. If there's any questions they want, they could just send them to your email and we
Yeah.
could answer them next week.
And then it goes on YouTube.
Will next week's presentation be on the same Zoom room, or is it?
No,
will you
it'd be a
send
different link.
notification about
So
it?
you have to ask for a link every time, or
Every time. So you'll send a link to our emails or to Messenger or something?
just the same as I did this time, I think through email.
Okay.
You'll send it out ahead of time.
Yes, but you have to ask.
So it'll be, and
Yeah.
you're thinking about next Sunday evening at the same time?
Oh, yes, the same time. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We're
I
great.
I mean,
I sure like the nice coffee shops and pastries, but I would have had trouble on all those hills.
there you go. There were a lot of e-bikes over there.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah, you would get along fine.
Okay, Stan, you've got to answer the question. What are the green lines that are on the screen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I wish
There are
I
those,
did.
yes.
They were there on every slide, weren't they?
They
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it must be a Zoom problem. It's I'm sure
Oh.
there's. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there's a line there too.
There's about 4 of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on every slide.
There's 2 red lines also.
I'm not sure what the issue is.
Anyhow, thank you everyone for coming online, and
Great, isn't it?
hopefully you found it worthwhile and enjoyable.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
much.
so
And-
all the correspondence is centralforumsarnia@gmail.com. Okay, so
And there's also, I
Comments?
think,
ideas
there's a Facebook group, so we can
in this Facebook group,
we can
same
message
name.
that as well, can we not?
Central Forum Sarnia, and YouTube channel Central Forum Sarnia. So we'll have this posted
Oh,
pretty soon, I think. So thanks very much.
okay.
So I'm glad that we didn't get cut off in a few minutes,
No?
and hope to
Ready?
see you next Sunday.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I hope we see you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
You know,
Hi,
you know,
thank you.
Yeah.
That's
There
lovely.
you go.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Now I need to go eat. I'm hungry.
Okay.
Thank you
Me
very
too.
much, guys. That was
Good
good.
If I can figure out how.
Bye.
Okay, bye for now. Hi, David.
See you
Bye-bye.
next week.
Oh, we'll be in
Oh,
touch.
yeah, John,
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing you on the trail someplace, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the
So, good to
segment
see you here.
between Bratislava and
Don, good to
Budapest.
see you here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're looking
Hi,
well.
You don't just have a life at Perch Creek, eh? You also
Mhm.
have another life.
Have you been
too.
vaccinated?
Good to see you. Okay, I'm ending it.
You're ending it, okay.
I want to talk to
We'll
Don.
we'll see you in a
Oh,
week's
yeah,
time.
we don't have to edit. No, okay, no, there's no.
Well,
we
we don't,
can
we
do
don't
the
have to end it.
ending.
We can actually chat for a bit more. It'll be-
Oh, of course we can. Yeah, sure. Stay.
But,
David, I don't think I've ever met your mom.
oh, really?
No.
Oh, well, there she is.
Hi, Hi, Gladys.
Who's,
You've never met
oh,
Sen. you've
Al,
never
hi,
met-
hi, Al.
Nice to meet you.
Well, maybe you'll bike closer to my area this summer.
I think that would be, where are you?
I'm in Waterloo.
Waterloo, because our son's in Stratford.
Okay,
Yeah,
It's
now
almost
I
next door.
understand you have a B&B.
yes.
Lives in
yeah,
Stratford. Oh, he's at the university. He teaches at the University of Waterloo, though, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
but they live in Stratford.
Yeah,
Oh,
my
it's on the Stratford- it's at the
Airbnb
Stratford
should be
campus.
open
There's a
by then,
university
so you
in
can
Stratford now,
stay
isn't
here.
there?
yeah, that would be wonderful. I think if I remember right, we heard stories about some of the situations, some of the wonderful situations that you've encountered over the years.
I could write a book.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Yeah, I hope you're keeping a journal and it's,
Yeah, I should keep better records, so I remember it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, do any of you guys keep journals? Or diaries? Well, we used to call them diaries, I guess.
No,
No, nobody
No.
does.
no.
well,
Well, I guess if you have a good
not
memory.
really, I'm not disciplined. I'm actually working on some software that will enable me to keep a journal, but I can't finish the software. If I don't finish the software, I won't be able to write a journal.
True.
Have you been out on your new bike, Don?
Yeah, I cruised down the river to Sombra and back. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
I understand that this is a first time experience for you.
Yeah, yeah.
What-
So
what-
he's not sure whether he should join Hell's Angels or Satan's Choice, the
Well,
rebel gangs.
I think you can get dual membership, can't you?
Oh. Hmm.
I think Don would look good in leather.
Oh, yeah.
I've made a point of not buying any leather stuff in my cycle gear. It's
You know, I have a couple of friends that ride up around the Simcoe area, and the one guy in particular never goes out except with full gear.
well, I'm the same. Yeah, I wear everything all. Yeah,
Yeah,
just not leather. It's
Even in the
Armor?
fabric stuff. That's the armor.
yeah.
Well, when I started university in Waterloo back in '65, I had a little Honda 50, and like I rode it to classes, in the wintertime, through the wintertime. Well, I guess that was when I was staying in your first class. I was off.
Yeah, yeah, I
I guess it was
remember that,
second
yeah.
I
But in
remember
the
that
first year,
too.
I would ride my Honda 50 in Waterloo.
I remember that bike, but I somehow remember it as being like more of like a 750 than a 50.
Well, it's probably not my first one was a little blue one, I think. Yeah. And then I had a Honda 90 and I thought that was a big bike. Yeah.
You know, just back to the presentation, any suggestions for next time, guys?
It was good. It was good to hear about it. Like I haven't heard about the details before and exactly the route that you took and everything.
Uh-huh.
Really interesting.
You know, it's too bad. Stan, you snuck in a couple of the pictures that I got online.
Oh, yeah.
But there were a number of pictures of the cluster that I got online that are just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the two of us decided should not go in the presentation because of copyright issues.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
The only other suggestion would be, there's times if you could, and it's hard to do, if you could roll through the photos while you're talking rather
Yeah.
than
Right.
just talking and then showing the photos.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway, that's
was
not
pretty good at doing that.
necessarily
Yeah.
easy.
You know, the
Yeah.
unfortunate thing, Don, is we almost don't have enough photos to cover the commentary,
Yeah.
you know. Of course, that's where the pro show would come in, Stan.
Yeah. Right.
You know, we could put all the pictures on the pro show and then just time it to whatever the commentary is.
Mhm.
You want to try that for next week?
Well, I'm not sure if we can do that at all.
I'll play around with it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. See
Yeah.
what you can do.
Sounds good.
Uh-huh.
Anyway. Okay.
Anyhow,
Good work, guys.
I
okay,
have to
thank
go.
you.
Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
thanks for joining.
It's nice seeing you,
Actually-
Gladys.
actually kind of
May I
late
call
here.
you
David,
Gladys?
must be bedtime for you.
Yeah,
Pardon?
Must be bedtime for David, I would think.
It's,
Oh.
it's almost 2 a.m. here, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean,
About your
we
bedtime?
could move this in a little bit. We could move it an hour earlier.
It actually, the time actually kind of works out for me. Like,
Oh, yeah?
I usually don't go to bed very early anyway, and
No, I guess not.
you know, I've got the whole house to my place and
Yeah.
the whole house to myself, and it's not a bad time for me.
Okay.
are you
Yeah,
gonna
nice
stay up the
talking
rest
all.
of the night?
No reason to change it for me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What about the rest of you? Well, I guess we don't have a big crowd here anymore, but
Just send a message out when
anyhow.
I'm gonna sign off, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good night. Sweet
Thank
dreams.
you.
Connect again.
see y'all
See you
soon.
soon.
See you next week.
Okay.